Welcome to Founder Fridays by Wana, where we interview different founders from wellness companies about their healing journeys. Today, we have Carly Stein from Beekeeper's Naturals here to tell us about her healing journey and why bees. Welcome, Carly.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
How are you doing today?
I'm good. Busy day, but really excited to be chatting and sharing my story.
Yeah, I'm so happy you're here. I know your products have helped myself and a lot of our other community members, and especially my whole team. We have all of your products on our desks, the Propolis spray especially for immune boosting, but I know for allergies, for me, it helps a lot. So I'd love to know, just kind of start off, get to learn a little bit about you, kind of where you went to school, where you're from. I know everyone likes to, learn that about our guests.
Yeah, for sure. So I am from Canada. I was born and raised in Toronto, Ontario, and I went to college on the west coast of Canada at University of Victoria. My mom is actually from the west coast, so we grew up visiting, and I just fell in love with it. And I loved UVic. It's a school with a major environmental orientation, so that was really, really great for me. And I studied social sciences, so it was kind of like a general arts and science degree, and I did mostly my focus was biology, but I was doing all kinds of stuff. But yeah, mostly my focus was biology, and I think I'm one course short of a minor in chemistry, so that's what I was doing.
Oh wow. Yeah, that is amazing. I used to live in Canada for a short stint. I was in Regina, Saskatchewan.
I've never actually been there.
Yeah, smack in the middle of Canada. But so I'm curious, how did you transition from that social sciences? I think you worked in finance for a while as well.
Yeah, that's what I did out of school. I had an interesting career path. It was very like me, I think, trying to avoid my heart and my like authentic sort of calling and trying to do something that was good on paper. So I did a social science undergrad. I was always into sciences, but I never really wanted to be a doctor. That was my sister does that, and it's an incredible profession, of course, and it just never really resonated with me. And so I thought at first I'd go into research, and that's where I did a lot of my internships. And when I was working while I was in college, I did a lot of research, and then I realized that research, wasn't really the life I wanted. And so I figured I would just go to law school because I didn't really know what I wanted to do. So I was like, whatever, I'll just go to law school. And I ended up, so I had just this funny path. One of my summers, I interned at the Bill Clinton Foundation in New York. And I was an intern, so I did all kinds of stuff. But one of the jobs that was really mine, and the thing that I ended up leading, was the Prescription Drug Abuse Initiative. And I ended up leading that job. One, I was just really passionate about that space because, as we'll get into, I had my own experience with prescription drugs. And two, I just think it was really important, and I demonstrated strong research skills. And so anyways, I ended up leading their Prescription Drug Abuse Initiative, which was awesome. And after that, I think maybe a few months later, there was a guy who was looking for graduates of the Clinton Foundation to join his hedge fund, and he was specifically looking for a pharmaceutical researcher. And so it wasn't really a finance role, it was like a pharma role, and he wanted somebody who wasn't really from the finance world, who could give kind of more of a sciencey perspective and provide an alternate perspective. And so I ended up interviewing with him, and I got that job offer out of school. And although I was, in sort of my early inspirational moments with my ideas of starting a bee product company, when I was graduating college, I had this good on paper job at a hedge fund, and I had no money, and it sounded insane to give that up and just start this like weird bee product company. Yep. So I took the job at the hedge fund, and I was there for about 10 months. And then 10 months in, I was recruited by Goldman Sachs, and I joined them as a trader. So I went from like sciencey finance to like pure finance. And that was again, a great on paper job, and just so not what I wanted to be doing and not who I am. And so it took me like really getting kind of caught in a career that was very socially acceptable, but really out of line with what I wanted, and having to kind of like hit rock bottom there to go after my dreams.
It's great to hear those inspiring stories of I quit my job and dropped everything, and it worked out. But on the other side of it, it really is people jumping from a sidewalk, kind of setting up that business, setting up that passion, and then when it makes sense to make the switch or pivot. So I'm curious, why bees?
So bees are 100% of my healing journey. So I have an autoimmune disorder. I have, well, basically what happens is when I take antibiotics, it triggers psoriasis and psoriatic arthritis. So it
Oh, wow.
triggers this like crazy inflammatory response. So antibiotics are just not an option for me. And at the same time, I was struggling with chronic tonsillitis to the point where like I would be sick for 3 weeks at a time every other month. As a kid, for example, I was out of
Yeah.
school all the time. Like it was just crazy. And I still have my tonsils today, but getting my tonsils removed was a pretty risky proposition because if I did develop an infection or something like that,
Yeah.
then I wouldn't be able to take antibiotics and, things can spiral. So I had, just having the specific type of allergy I did combined with my very weak immune system just put me in this very high risk category. And I was just always sick, always immune concerns. Like, if somebody coughed next to me, I would get it. Like it was just like a disaster. And because I couldn't really take anything in the pharmaceutical world, I started really searching the natural world. Things in the OTC world also didn't work
Yeah.
for me. So, I can't take something like NyQuil or Neocitrin. All of that stuff triggers some kind of crazy reaction. And yeah, I was just really reactive. And when I say I would have a reaction, I would have like head to toe hives that looked like adult chicken pox for like 6 months sort of thing, or
Oh,
stuff like
wow.
that. That was like, not great. So that was just the state of affairs. And it forced me to start really exploring the natural world and the alternative wellness world. And I found a lot of incredible things there. I made a lot of dietary changes. I started incorporating some really beautiful practices to my routine that,
Yep.
still hold me today. But when it came to like, something something like tonsillitis, I just couldn't get rid of it with stuff in the natural world. And I found myself really frustrated with all of these natural products that are maybe beautifully branded or promise great results, but just don't deliver in the sort of potency that I need. So I was obsessed with the natural wellness world, but also really disillusioned with it as a consumer because there was just a lot that wasn't quite powerful enough for what I was dealing with. And I felt super isolated and I just didn't know what to do. And that was just the state of affairs for me and carried on until college. And when I was in college, I did a semester abroad. I was studying in Europe. And of course, when I got to Italy, I got really sick with tonsillitis.
Oh,
And I was having like, it was so bad. I was having a hard time breathing and
yeah.
I didn't know what to do. I was going to have to come home. And I was just like I had just had enough. I was like, I'm not missing out on another thing. I saved up. I worked my butt off waitressing to afford to be out here. I worked really, really hard to make this happen. This is like my first, big experience abroad.
Yeah.
And I was just looking for anything. And I walked into a pharmacy in Florence and the pharmacist took one look at me and my cheeks were like swollen. My whole everything would just swell up like crazy. And she was like, you need propolis. And I was like, okay, what's that? And she's like, from the bees. And I was like, oh, so honey. Because like many of us, I was under the impression that all that the bees did was make honey. And she's like, no, 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 totally different thing, propolis. So I was like, okay, sure, whatever, I'll try it. So I bought this little tincture. It had like no information on it. It was like a little glass bottle. And I started using it. And in about 5 days, I made a full recovery. And I had never had that kind of healing experience. I had never had an experience with a product before where I took it, I was sick, and I actually got better. And that was, the only change I had made. And so that was just really exciting for me. I was like, oh my gosh, I found my solution. And I started using propolis daily and I stopped getting sick. And as
That's
I was
amazing.
traveling around Europe, yeah, it was a really incredible experience. And then Europe is so progressive with their natural health.
Yep.
All about that. And as I was traveling around Europe, I started to notice that propolis was super common in the immune category. Like corner stores would have it. And royal jelly, I was finding different brain supplements and anti-aging supplements with royal jelly in it. Specifically in France, I found so many royal jelly supplements. And then bee pollen, I remember in Copenhagen seeing bee pollen supplements for energy. So I start finding all these different bee products that are going beyond honey and incorporating them into my routine. And my health radically shifted. Like not only did I not get sick, my energy levels changed, my sleep, my skin, like everything just
I'm
really
sure.
changed. Bee products were what worked for me. And that was the start of my obsession. So I didn't know very much about the bees. I've, always been into nature, and I'm like such a hippie chick, but I had no idea really like what they meant to our environment. And so I first fell in love with these products, and they were just what worked for me.
Yep.
And then what happened was sorry, this is like a super long story.
No, I love it. I'm on the edge of my seat over here.
Okay. So I went back home after my time abroad to finish up my final semester in college in Canada.
Yep.
And midterms rolled around, and I got sick again. Or I don't know if it was midterms. Anyway, some exam period. But anyways, I got really sick again, and I wasn't worried this time. So I was like, it's fine. I just need propolis. Like, I'll go to the health food store and get it. So I went to the health food store. No one had any idea what I was talking about, like no clue. I finally found propolis at a farmer's market from this Beekeeper booth, and it was like $40, organic, artisanal, this like beautiful fancy propolis. I was super excited. I used it, and I had a really severe allergic reaction. Like I had plaque-like hives. Like if any person in the community who deals with psoriasis, I had like psoriasis or eczema like hives like on my face everywhere. Like I would like it was bad. And I was like, what is this? How is the thing that helps me causing this kind of reaction? So I was a TA for my chemistry class at the time. Unfortunately, I was a student, and I had all the resources that students have. So I had access to the lab, and I did a toxicity panel on the product I'd purchased, and I figured out that there was pesticides in it. And I was like, this is organic. What does this mean? And so I started doing a lot of research into just the industry of bee products, and I figured out that the organic certification doesn't really function very well for bee products, because let's say you're dealing with blueberries, you can fence them in, they stay put, or cattle, you can fence them in, the bees fly. So just because they're on certified organic land, if the next door neighbors are doing something dirty and they fly over and get into those flowers, then trace amounts of that pesticide will get into your end product. And if you're, if you don't have a super sensitive system, if you're not autoimmune, you're probably fine. But for people like me, everything I put in my body, I have to be hyper vigilant, and the littlest thing can trigger something that leaves me in a state for months on end. So organic just didn't hold up. So I was like, okay, I know what I need, but I know that bee products work for me, but I can't get them with the quality assurance that I need to feel safe. So like, what do I do? So I was like, okay, I guess I have to start beekeeping. So I did a lot of research. I figured out that bees' maximum foraging distance is a 5-mile radius. So if you can have 5 miles on all sort of ends surrounding the bees, then they're probably not, in most cases, unless they're like pretty desperate for food, they're not really going to go past that. So I was like, perfect. I just need to have a beehive in the middle of nowhere.
A lot of property.
So yeah. So what I did is I found a mentor. I started going to I literally just like Google search stuff. I started going to these local beekeepers associations. I stuck out there. I was like the youngest, like people thought they were like, what is this little girl doing here? But I ended up finding a mentor he actually is a retired biochemist who had moved to Canada to like live in the woods and be a recluse, and a 3rd generation beekeeper. And so he became my mentor, and I started working for him for free. And I started off like I would literally go after classes and go on weekends and like clean his hive tools. Like he wouldn't let me.
Did you have the whole get up?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I wore a full suit. I had to like order it online. He like didn't give me anything. He was like, if you want to do this, you're going to be like my apprentice. But it was an incredible experience. And it was also one, just him being a 3rd generation beekeeper, being from Romania, where bee products are used very commonly as medicine. He had a very different perspective. And then his career, him formerly being a biochemist, he also had a very different perspective. So it was just like the ultimate learning for me. Everything kind of aligned there. And I started working for him. My friends thought I was completely insane, because this is in 2012 and like you're a college student, and people are like, what are you doing going to keep bees with this like 60-year-old dude in the middle of the woods? I don't understand.
Yeah, I'm sure that they were like, okay, yep, the bees.
Oh yeah, no. Like legitimately people thought I was insane, which is really funny. But I just fell in love with the bees. So I fell in love with them because I was able to recover. I was able to make the
Yeah.
products that I needed and really support my health. And I started going beyond propolis and, really just learning about the medical efficacy of the different incredible foods coming from the beehive. And then I started learning about the bees and the integral role they play in our environment, how they pollinate 1/3 of our food supply. And
Yeah.
without them, we really would not have anything. And just how the intricacy of how the hive works. And so I just became fascinated by the bees. And again, being a student, I had access to the university database. So I
Yep.
was pulling up all these crazy studies on how propolis affects the immune system. And I just started making products. And it certainly wasn't, I was not even thinking about starting a company. I was like, there's no way you can build a career out of this. This will be my hobby and passion. And I'll go get a normal job. And so that's really how I was thinking about it in the early days.
Wow. I mean, that is a lot. I mean, it seems like you were very busy in college. How did you balance being a apprentice with your internship, college, your own health? It seems like it was a lot to manage.
I have always been like a busy person. I'm super type A and
Yeah.
I kind of go nuts when I don't have a lot to do. But my internship was in the summer, so that helped. I worked the whole time I was in college. Um, and then I would just beekeeping was like my hobby, the same way people in college play sports. I mean, I was on the cheerleading team, so that took up time. But beekeeping was really my main hobby. Like I would really look forward to it, and I would just do it kind of after school and on weekends. And for me, beekeeping, I mean, a lot of people have this experience. Actually, beekeeping can be quite meditative for a
Yeah.
few reasons. One, you're really isolated. You're like out there with your thoughts and the bees. Two, you're connecting to nature, and three, there's something really special, like the somatic experience, the hum of the hive, the aromatherapy. Like some people even, for me, I love beeswax candles. Like a lot of people just use those for aromatherapy and air purification and all kinds of things. So you have all of those different things happening. You're kind of really in the middle of nowhere. And it was something I really looked forward to. And now, like now looking back, I'm super into meditation now. I think beekeeping was my first experience with
Yep.
meditation.
Sounds like it was a very grounding experience. I know personally,
Mm-hmm.
I've had my own experience. I do a lot of like shamanic Reiki work, and I was meditating for years and didn't know I was doing it. And also working with the energy, and it's like, oh, I've been doing this for the whole time. So it's fun finding those little passions. But I actually experience a lot of similar symptoms you have with your tonsillitis and throat issues, and mine was always stress related. It was always around finals, midterms,
Mm-hmm.
stressful periods of time. So I'm curious, with that, how have you changed your lifestyle? I mean, you found great products, you made the products, you cultivated the bees. How do you balance your lifestyle now and meld in some of these products?
So balance will be my lifelong battle. I really struggle with anxiety, and
Yeah,
I mentioned like I'm super type A. I need to be busy, so I'm both an anxious person and somebody who needs to jam pack their schedule no matter what. So I have to really just be proactive with my mental health, with my physical health, everything. A big thing for me, actually, one of the products I really incorporate into the stress management is our Bee Chill honey. So we have one of our honeys that has organic hemp, and it has therapeutic dosages. It's uh, really been a game changer for my anxiety. So
yeah,
I'll do like one of these honey sticks in the afternoon. I do a teaspoon of it in my tea before bed. It's really helped my sleep, my anxiety. We have a lot of customers that use it for pain relief, inflammation. For me, I really use that one to manage stress, and it's been very, very helpful. But beyond that, I have to be really diligent with my schedule. Like I have to, I do this thing every morning where I'll journal and I'll try and write like just free form write 1 to 3 pages.
yeah.
I find that really helps like get things out of me. I mentioned meditation. That's a big thing. Yoga, movement, and then just, yeah, being very careful with my health. I think the biggest thing mentally is just really working hard to stay present, because it is so easy for me I'm going to use a Joe Dispenza word, but look to live in the predictable future. I spend so much time being like, okay, now I have to do this, now this.
Yep.
I think so many of us get caught in that place, and it's really unfortunate because then you miss all of the joy of the present moment and the challenge and all of the beautiful things. So I find that I'm constantly having to like center and have a conversation with myself and bring myself back to the present moment. And I definitely have found that incorporating bee products into my routine has been super helpful. And spending time in nature is huge. Another thing too, this is a product that it's specifically focused on energy. I actually have it right here. I just like chug it all the time. I literally pour it into my mouth, but I use a lot.
Can you just pop it?
Yeah, I'm like, I do this like I eat a lot of bee products, but.
Oh, wow. I thought you need to like sprinkle it on yogurt or something.
Most people do.
Yeah. I've been really incorporating your product into my own morning ritual. I'm very much type A, which is the burden of, wanting to get everything done, but also the anxiety of will I get it done? So in the mornings, I have a cup of tea before my 7 cups of coffee. And I've been really using your, the royal jelly one, the bee powered.
Yep.
Yeah, which is it been great. And even this morning, I didn't actually put tea in. I just put a full scoop of it in, and it was amazing. For me, just having that time to ground myself with a product that also I think stimulates your brain. You can tell me the science behind it, but usually I went for your Bee Elixir product because that is like, you feel focused. It's like a little jolt of coffee for me. Totally. But I think kind of that grounding experience is also so powerful, and you can incorporate these products into any way of your life with them.
I love that. Yeah, I do. I find bee products to be incredibly grounding, and they're also just so nutrient dense. So yeah, maybe I should let people know a little bit more about that. So the bee pollen, I love bee pollen. I think of it as nature's multivitamin. It has broad spectrum vitamins and minerals. The thing for me that I really love about it, because I've had so many digestive issues, is it is super bioavailable. So if you're someone who, sometimes you see people and they're taking every supplement. Yeah. So we have a hard time absorbing nutrients sometimes. And a lot of the products out there are not built with bioavailability in mind. So you'll take sometimes capsules and supplements and you just titrate, which is like peeing out the nutrients essentially. Bee pollen, because it's full of live enzymes, it's an incredibly bioavailable, digestible source of nutrition. And so it has broad spectrum vitamins, A, B, C, D, like the spectrum. It's really great for energy boosting. There's actually more protein per weight than any animal source. And one of my favorite things about bee pollen is it's amazing for endurance. So there's actually a study done looking at competitive athletes, and it found that those who took bee pollen, it helped to oxygenate the tissues and it improved their endurance. So I love taking it for that reason. Our bee powered actually has a really good dose of bee pollen in it. So you're getting your bee pollen, but bee powered is our superfood honey. And I also do this every morning. I used to put it in tea. Now I just do like a spoon straight in the morning. And I find that. Yeah, it's actually, especially if you struggle with GI stuff, it has been huge for repairing my digestive tract, like huge. So the thing with bee powered, it's a honey, but it's a medicinal grade dosage honey. So in 1 teaspoon, you're getting 745 milligrams of royal jelly, 532 milligrams of pollen, so a lot of pollen, and 43 milligrams of propolis. And then it's in the raw honey. And something that's really cool. So I'll talk about what all the different bee products do because they've been so helpful for me, and I'm sure that they can help other people.
Yeah, I'm sure our users are so interested in all of them. We talk about them on the app all the time. So the more information, the better.
Perfect. So one of the main things about bee products as well, though, is they have really incredible synergistic effects. So when you combine pollen and honey, it actually becomes a source of calcium. And this combination actually has probiotics as well. So it's like a really, really nutrient dense way to get kind of all the bee products and really sort of kickstart your system. And you mentioned this one too, which I always take.
Don't worry, I was waiting for it. I'm just gonna take it now on camera.
Awesome, I just took my shot. So
it's so easy. It literally is amazing.
It's awesome. This has replaced my afternoon coffee, and I really love this product. So originally I built this product because my best friend had a really serious concussion, and it was just like a formula I put together for him to help him heal. And it was his worst concussion and best recovery. And when I saw how he recovered, I was like, okay, I'll start using it. And I started using it, and I was like, oh, my productivity, my memory, like everything is very on point when I take this. And I have sustained energy and I can skip the coffee. And so
Yeah.
after I started using it on myself and doing more testing and reading about the ingredients, I was like, okay, I think we can build a product around this that is incredibly nourishing for people's brains. So my favorite thing about this, there's so many nootropics on the market, and a lot of them have like super long ingredient lists, which I'm just generally not a fan of. I like short, high potency, well sourced, high quality ingredient lists. So a lot of the nootropics have just like super long ingredient lists, and then they have a ton of caffeine. And for me, that's kind of cheating, because like caffeine is going to help
Going
with
to make you
productivity.
feel buzzing.
Yeah. And so I was like, can we achieve what we really want to achieve with no caffeine? So this formula has no caffeine, no refined sugars, no preservatives, no additives. None of our products do. And what's in here is royal jelly, which comes from the beehive. It's like rocket fuel for your brain. And then it has the copa manieri.
Is that made from the actual bees, or is that made from the plants?
So the bees make it from the plant. It's a secretion that nurse bees make. And what royal jelly literally is it's the food of the queen bee. So I'll do like a little breakdown maybe, because there is a lot of this stuff is so new for most people. It certainly was for me. So everyone knows honey. Honey is the food of the bees. You can think of honey as like the bee's energy source or their carbs. And where it comes from is it comes from floral nectars. So bees will literally go flower to flower, suck up the nectar, and basically allow it to ferment in the hive and create honey. And so that's what honey is. It's the bee's food. For humans, honey's awesome. It's really great. I mean, it has antioxidants, it has immune supporting properties. One of my favorite uses of honey is that it actually helps with calming the body down. So when you take honey, it allows for a slow, steady spike in insulin, which allows the tryptophan in your body to cross the blood-brain barrier, where it's converted into serotonin and then melatonin in the dark. So honey, just raw pure honey, is actually an awesome sleep aid. It's a great way to calm down. That's why that's why our bee chill honey is like such a beautiful marriage, because you've got the hemp and then you've got the honey, and those two together are just like very good for blissing out. Next time you have a big meditation session planned, try taking a chill stick before. You'll definitely notice it. But so honey's really great for a lot of reasons. It's the bee's food. And then propolis, which I probably sprayed throughout this at some point. This was, I have mine. This was like what made me fall in love with bee products. This is the stuff that radically changed my immune system. For me, it really functioned as an immunomodulatory agent. So it just helped to kind of stabilize everything. But what it is in the hive, so honey comes from flowers, whereas propolis comes from plant and tree resins. So it's a little bit more medicinal in its base ingredient. So the bees will collect plant and tree resins, mix it with their enzymes, and then they make this sticky amber colored substance called propolis, and they use it to literally line the hive and keep it germ free. So people often refer to propolis as the medicine of the hive or the immune system of the hive. For newborn baby bees, what they'll do is they'll line the cell walls, and they'll do that to create a sterile environment for newborns. And one interesting propolis fact, it's kind of a weird one, but it's also my favorite, so I'm going to say it. Let's say a predator gets into the hive like a mouse. The bees can sting it and kill it, but they can't physically pick up a dead mouse and carry it out of the hive. And just like us, if we had a dead body in our living room, it would cause some serious diseases. So if the bees just left the decaying rodent in the hive, it would cause a ton of disease and a ton of issues. And what they do is because they can't move it, is they actually mummify the dead rodent in propolis. And it's that powerful of a protective antimicrobial germ fighting agent that it insulates the hive from all of the bacteria from this decaying rodent. So in nature, it's sort of the protector, the medicine.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, it's really, really awesome to see how it plays out in nature.
I love how smart nature is, you know?
I know.
It's the littlest things.
Totally. But yeah, it functions for humans in very much the same way. It really helps to support immune health. It helps to fight germs. It's fantastic for inflammation. It's actually really great for allergies as well. And you were mentioning that, although, we talk a lot about propolis and its effects on the immune system, but propolis actually reduces the histamine response. So for people who do struggle with allergies, it's super helpful. Full of antioxidants. There's over 300 beneficial compounds in propolis. So propolis is like my favorite thing ever. I honestly do like probably 10 sprays a day,
Oh,
sometimes
wow.
more. Yeah, most of our customers do like 3 to 5 sprays a day. And then if they're feeling run down, if they're, exposed to people who are under the weather, no one's traveling right now, but when in the days when
Great
they
for
were
travel in my bag.
traveling, yeah, anything where you feel like your immune system might be compromised, or you just feel like you need extra support if you're stressed, if your sleep isn't great, I
Yeah.
just double down on my propolis. And then royal jelly, which is in our powered and our brain fuel
Yeah.
product, that you can kind of think of royal jelly as the superfood of the hive. So I mentioned that it's the food of the queen bee. So it's a secretion that the nurse bees make and they feed to the queen. And all newborn baby bees are fed royal jelly for the first 3 days of development. And then after 3 days, they switch off onto a normal diet of pollen and honey. Pollen's the bee's protein, by the way.
Okay.
And it's only the bee who's to become queen who continues with her royal jelly diet. So, the main difference from the queen bee versus the regular bees is that she is just continuing to eat royal jelly, and that's kind of her exclusive food. And if you look at how the queen bee develops versus regular bees, it's very, very different. So the queen bee will live 3 to 5 years versus a regular worker bee during foraging season will live 6 to 8 weeks. The queen bee lays up to 1,500 babies a day, whereas regular female bees don't have reproductive organs. And the queen bee also, if you guys just Google like a picture of a queen bee, or on our Instagram,
They're huge. I looked.
yeah, much more robust. So in
Yeah.
nature, royal jelly is like working some serious magic. For humans, a lot of the studies on royal jelly have been focused on the brain. A study came out of University of Warsaw a few years back, and it found that regular consumption of royal jelly improves our spatial reasoning. And royal jelly does so much for our brain. The reason why royal jelly has such a powerful effect on our brain, one, it's just, before we even get into that, it's full of antioxidants, it has fatty acids, it's like a
Yeah.
really nutrient dense food. But specifically for the brain, royal jelly is a naturally occurring source of acetylcholine. And acetylcholine is a neurotransmitter that that supports brain body connection. So you can think of royal jelly as literally speeding up your transmission system, supporting that system. Royal jelly also contains 2 fatty acids that are not found to be naturally occurring anywhere else, that are incredibly powerful. One of them is called AMP-N1 oxide, and the other one is called 10-HDA. And these act as a
Your
catalyst
chemistry
for
minor showing.
it happens. But those act as a catalyst for brain-derived neurotrophic factor, or BDNF. So royal jelly literally helps to jumpstart neurogenesis, which is the process of the brain creating new cells.
Oh, wow.
So it's a great way to support a natural process, support the brain. It's incredibly healing.
Yep.
If somebody's struggling with a concussion or concussion-like symptoms, it can be fantastic to jumpstart that healing. So for me, I had the experience with my best friend way back, and then in August, I actually had a really terrible concussion. I cracked my head open on a concrete floor. It was not great. And I recovered in 1 month. And I honestly think, like, the doctors were amazed because I hit myself right on the temple too. It was a sensitive spot. My recovery, I really credit to how much I was taking care of my brain, taking things like Elixir. I also take omegas regularly, and just prioritize health. But I was taking, a lot of these in my recovery. It was like a major part of my concussion recovery protocol, and I had a really great recovery, and you can really feel the difference. It's like turning the light on a little bit.
Yeah.
So anyway, so for somebody who has some damage, they can be really supportive for healing and recovery. We have a lot of our customer base who are members of the aging demographic, who are just looking to prevent things like different neurodegenerative conditions. Some people have a genetic predisposition to things like Alzheimer's, that sort of thing. So they're really looking to prioritize brain health. We have a ton of students who just use it during exam time, who are kind of swapping out some of the study drugs and trying to look for more natural options. And then for me, I just use it like you do. Like, I use it instead of my afternoon coffee. I use it when I need to be productive. It's a really great formula, the Elixir as well, because it has the royal jelly in there, and then it has 2 adaptogens. So rather than putting caffeine, which can be depleting to your system and isn't suitable for everyone, we put in Bacopa monnieri, which is an extract from a leaf traditionally used in Ayurvedic medicine, and ginkgo biloba, which is an extract from a tree that's really great for promoting brain circulation, reducing inflammation, and it's adaptogenic as well. So our whole philosophy when it comes to building products is like short ingredient list, super high potency, high quality. Our tagline is naturally sourced, obsessively tested. And yeah, just really things that work. And I think something really different as well. So I mentioned the start of this, my experience taking that or the organic bee products and having a reaction. What we do today is we practice third-party pesticide testing for all of our products. So our propolis, our honey, whatever it is, before it goes into the jar, bottle, whatever, we send it to a third-party lab and we test for every pesticide, toxin, and pollutant in accordance with Health Canada, which is more rigorous in the US.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
that's a major way that we do that for two reasons. One is we can, really create assurance that this product is clean, it's pure, it's going to be suitable for people in the autoimmune community. And it's going to be, we basically want to build products that can be healing for the broadest generation possible, or sorry,
Yep.
the broadest demographic possible. And
Yeah, I think
that's
this can
really our
help out so
goal.
much with them, with the chronic illness community. But I'm curious, you live in New York City, right?
Hmm.
Where are the bees?
Yeah. So I mentioned our pesticide testing. So one of
Yeah,
the reasons we do that is product quality. The other reason we do that is for sustainability. One of the majorly damaging things that's happening to the bees right now is exposure to pesticides. It's one of the number one,
yep,
in my opinion, it's the number one killer of the bees. And so we need to make sure that our bees are not exposed to pesticides. And one way that we really contribute to the cause is creating a clean habitat for our bees. And I mentioned that 5 mile radius, that means we have to keep bees in the middle of nowhere. And unfortunately, US pesticide regulation is not where I want it to be. So, there are some places in the US that are clean and we really do try to source there, particularly because I live there. It, makes my
yeah,
life easier. And I love being able to support local to wherever I am. But a lot of the time when we've tried to work with US partners, we've had a really hard time with pesticide exposure, even
yeah.
with people with organic certification. So for that reason, we keep a lot of our bees in Canada. We work a lot in Brazil. And as we grow, we're probably going to be, there's some apiaries in France that I'm very, very close with. There are some parts of the US that are fantastic. And I'm hoping that environmental regulation changes and all of this changes. But for now, we have to keep our bees in places that are kind of the middle of nowhere. So Canada is amazing because it's a massive country with a tiny
Yep.
population. So like our largest apiaries are in Canada. Brazil's growing pretty quick. But something that's been amazing is being able to keep our bees away from pesticides. We've actually seen hive growth contrary to population trends. So year over year, the bees are in decline in a major way, which is devastating and will affect all of us if we don't stop that. And our bees, which are in the middle of nowhere, treated with a lot of TLC, and really just we like love and care for our bees
Clean and
obsessively.
free.
Yeah, but our hives have been growing like crazy, which is awesome.
That's great.
So we've been like organically expanding.
I mean, that's amazing that you're making that kind of impact, but also providing such amazing and clean products. But one thing I'm curious, I'm sure everyone else is, we have a lot of people on Wana that deal with chronic illness, similar to yourself. And I know there are so many benefits to these products, as you've already mentioned. But if someone was dealing with whether it's migraines, chronic fatigue, or autoimmune disorder, which ones would you recommend to incorporate into your regimen or your medicine cabinet?
Mm-hmm. So propolis is a really easy one to incorporate. It has so many benefits on the immune stabilization side, and then it's also really incredible for inflammation. So a lot of the conditions we struggle with, inflammation is a key factor.
Yep.
This is a really easy thing to just incorporate into your routine. For things like chronic fatigue, vertigo-like symptoms, things more on the neurological side, we have a huge customer base that really relies on Beelixir. Brain fog is also a massive symptom of so many different autoimmune conditions. So this is a really great one. This is a new product we came out with, but it has a really awesome formula for people dealing specifically with immune concerns. So it's our cough syrup. It's called Be Soothed.
I'm
And
sure
what we
that's
have in
huge right
here,
now.
yes, yeah, it's people have been really enjoying this one. It's
Yeah.
kind of crazy what's happening in the world because we had this launch planned for like ever,
Yep.
and yeah, it's pretty crazy, and I'm just really happy that we can support our customer base. But this product is really great for people in the autoimmune category because it has buckwheat honey, it has propolis, it has elderberry, and then chaga mushroom and olive leaf extract. So
Wow.
some really powerful immune supporting ingredients with nothing that should overstimulate or be too harsh on your system. And then this is just a really great daily, like we have such, our customer demographic, it's a lot of people struggling with chronic illness. And we have just like, you guys are doing such an amazing thing to create a space for people to connect and converse and share. And our customer base, because it is such a strong community of people who have dealt with so much and are dealing with so much, they are super vocal with us. So they often like tell us how they're using things. It's just like this crazy feedback loop.
I've seen some masks. Maybe it was you. I'm curious, did you mash up the bee pollen and like make a mask with the honey?
Oh, the face mask?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, I do this all the time on my face.
Oh wow, okay, I'm gonna try that tonight.
Oh my God, yeah, no, you have to do that. This is the best thing ever.
I just trimmed down my beard, so it should be perfect.
This is perfect. So just really quick, bee products for skincare. So honey's a humectant, so it helps to strengthen the moisture barrier. And it helps to, humectant means hydration. So it helps to hydrate the skin. And then royal jelly actually boosts collagen production. There's royal jelly in here. Which is
great.
Propolis is great for inflammation. So if you struggle with like psoriasis, eczema, any kind of like redness, we have a lot of customers with eczema who literally will spray their propolis into their skin, their like lotion, and put it all over their body. And then pollen is full of protein, nutrients, minerals. And then honey naturally is full of antioxidants. So this is like the best face mask. I do it at least once a week. Our customer amazing. Base with energy, you definitely try it. But anyone with energy issues, we have a lot of customers that specifically rely on this for energy support. All you need is a teaspoon. So one jar should last you a really long time. That's kind of how most people use our products. We also, for any of the parents out there, we have a kids propolis. And this one is
love that.
a fun product. It's just propolis, and we included buckwheat honey. There was a study, this one was framed by like my parents' experience with me and my experience just always being sick as a kid. But buckwheat honey, there was actually a study conducted, and it compared buckwheat honey to dextromethorphan, which is the active ingredient in most over-the-counter cough syrup. So like whatever cherry flavored stuff.
So sugary, so syrupy.
Yeah, but this study found that the buckwheat honey was just as effective as dextro for upper pediatric respiratory infections. So like just as effective, like we don't need to take the chemical stuff. So when I saw that study, I was like, oh my gosh, we need to build a product around this. So both of these products have the buckwheat honey in them.
That's amazing. I am so excited to start using these products in a different way. I didn't know I could use them. I know I'm trying to always incorporate natural products into my lifestyle, because it's easy to go to the drugstore and pick out what your mom gave you when you were younger. But when you're able to replace things and make yourself feel better more naturally, I think that's the key. This whole entire alternative health world, I feel like, is exploding right now because of everything going on in the world with COVID. And I think people are really starting to focus in on the products, the food that we put in our bodies. Everything is kind of awakening in a different way of consciousness. So I'm so happy that even with these bees, now we're able to have a little more reverence towards them and understand that we do need to have these products and these little buddies in our lives. So last question. I'm curious, if there was one thing you had to tell Carly before she started this business, or when she was dealing with the throes of her chronic illness, what would it be?
I mean, I think just to have hope. There were so many moments where I felt really hopeless, both dealing with my health issues. I felt like nothing works for me. This is just it. And then also starting my business. I was like, no one believes in this. This is insane. This is too hard. I had so many moments of doubt.
Yeah.
And I think it's just looking past the doubt and understanding that like on the other side of fear is freedom. So no matter what you're dealing with, there is so much beyond that. And I think, life really rewards those who are willing to be brave enough and bold enough to meet these things head on and work through it. And there just is so much hope, and there is recovery. And platforms like Wana are the start of it, I think, in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I mean, we're so happy to start this partnership with Beekeepers Naturals. I think we're going to be able to provide such effective products that will help people heal in so many different ways with such a powerful mission. I think that's really it, supporting the people behind the company, but supporting these amazing products. So I want to thank you for speaking with me today. This was amazing. I'm so happy you were our first guest.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining me for the first episode of Founder Friday. To buy some of the products from today's episode, go to beekeepersnaturals.com and use code WANA15 to get 15% off. Join us next week when I interview Hillary Kwartner from Hilma. Her company has created an alternative supplement for those sugary products in your medicine cabinet. Don't forget, Wana is an app you can download on Android and iOS that connects you with others with similar health concerns looking for answers. Catch you on the app.